The cafeteria fell silent as Marcus the Mountain Williams towered over the small Asian man sitting alone at the corner table. At 6 feet 4 inches and 280 pounds of pure muscle, Marcus had never met resistance in Inmate Penitentiary. He cracked his knuckles, a sinister grin spreading across his scarred face. In his massive hand, Marcus held a raw egg he'd smuggled from the kitchen, his favorite way to humiliate fresh meat. The other inmates watched, some with pity, others with sick anticipation. They'd seen this before. "Welcome to Iron Gate, old man," Marcus sneered, and without warning, he cracked the raw egg directly on top of Chen's head. The yolk and whites oozed down the old man's face, dripping onto his prison uniform. Laughter erupted from Marcus's crew at a nearby table. But Chen didn't flinch. He didn't wipe his face. He simply set down his fork with deliberate calm and slowly stood up. What happened next occurred so fast that most inmates missed it. Marcus reached out to shove Chen back down into his seat, but in a split second, the old man's hand moved like lightning. One strike to Marcus's wrist, another to his solar plexus. The mountain's eyes went wide. His legs buckled, and then all 280 pounds of muscle crashed to the floor, flat on his back, gasping for air, staring up at the fluorescent lights. Chen calmly reached for a napkin, wiped the egg from his face, and sat back down to finish his meal. The entire cafeteria erupted in chaos. If you want more jaw-dropping prison stories like this one, hit that subscribe button right now for Behind Bar Tales. We bring you the most incredible true stories from inside America's toughest prisons. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in this story. Now, let's rewind and see how Marcus the Mountain Williams made the biggest mistake of his prison career. Marcus Williams had ruled Cell Block D of Inmate Penitentiary for 3 years. His reputation preceded him like a storm cloud. Before prison, Marcus had been an underground cage fighter in Detroit, racking up 17 brutal victories before his arrest for aggravated assault. The victim? A man he'd beaten so severely during a road rage incident that the guy spent 6 months learning to walk again. Inside Iron Gate, Marcus quickly established himself as the alpha predator. His first week, he hospitalized 2 inmates who looked at him wrong. The guards learned to give him a wide berth. Even the Aryan Brotherhood and the Latin Kings kept their distance, finding it easier to work around Marcus than confront him. Marcus ran everything in Cell Block D. Want an extra dessert? Pay Marcus. Need a cell phone smuggled in? Marcus took a 50% cut. Cross him? You'd end up in the infirmary, or worse, in solitary after Marcus planted contraband in your cell and tipped off the guards. His crew consisted of 5 hardened criminals who acted as his enforcers. There was Dwayne "Trigger" Morrison, serving life for a double homicide. Leon Baptiste, a former gang enforcer with teardrop tattoos mapping his kills. The twins, Carlos and Luis Mendoza, who'd run a drug operation in Chicago. And finally, Jerome "Jittery" Jackson, a meth addict turned dealer who'd do anything for his next fix. Together, they were untouchable. Marcus's physique was intimidating. He spent 4 hours daily in the prison gym, his biceps the size of basketballs, his chest so broad he had to turn sideways through some doorways. He'd covered his body in prison tattoos, each one representing a victory over another inmate. Across his knuckles, he'd tattooed pain on his right hand and fear on his left. But Marcus had a cruel streak that went beyond mere intimidation. He enjoyed humiliating weaker inmates, making examples of them. He'd force new arrivals to hand over their commissary purchases, their family photos, anything of value. Those who resisted became cautionary tales. The guards knew about Marcus's operation, but he was smart. He never left evidence, never got caught red-handed. And truthfully, some guards found him useful. When Marcus kept order in Cell Block D, their jobs became easier. It was a devil's bargain, but in a place like Iron Gate, compromises were made daily. On a cold Tuesday morning, a new inmate arrived in Cell Block D. The prison transport van delivered him just after breakfast. His name was listed on the roster as Chen Wei, age 58, serving 12 years for voluntary manslaughter. Chen cut an unimpressive figure. Standing barely 5 feet 6 inches and weighing perhaps 150 pounds, He looked more like someone's grandfather than a convicted killer. His hair had grayed at the temples, and deep lines creased his weathered face. He carried himself with a quiet dignity, his eyes downcast, his movements economical and precise. The intake officer, Officer Hendricks, processed Chen through the standard procedures. Fingerprints, photographs, cavity search, prison uniform assignment. The whole time, Chen remained silent, answering questions with simple nods or one-word responses. "You seem like you'll keep your head down," Hendricks observed, not unkindly. "That's smart. This ain't the worst cell block, but it ain't summer camp either. Big guy named Marcus runs things here. Stay out of his way, you'll be fine." Chen simply nodded. His cellmate turned out to be an older black man named Walter Freeman, a former accountant serving time for embezzlement. Walter had survived 7 years in Iron Gate by being invisible, never causing trouble, never attracting attention. "Welcome to paradise," Walter said dryly as Chen entered their 8x10 cell. "Bottom bunk's yours. Lights out at 10. Don't touch my stuff. I won't touch yours. We'll get along fine." Over the next few days, Walter observed his new cellmate with growing curiosity. Chen rose every morning at 5 a.m., performing what looked like slow, flowing exercises in the tiny space between their bunks. He ate sparingly in the cafeteria, always choosing a corner table away from the main population. He never spoke unless spoken to, and even then, his responses were minimal. "You're the quietest man I've ever met," Walter commented one evening. "What did you do out there to end up in here?" Chen was silent for a long moment. "I killed a man," he finally said, his voice heavily accented. "He hurt my daughter. I made sure he could never hurt anyone again." Walter didn't press further. In prison, you learned not to dig too deep into another man's past. But Walter noticed other things about Chen. The old man moved with an unusual grace, like water flowing around obstacles. His hands, though aged, looked powerful, the knuckles scarred and hardened. And despite his small size, there was something in Chen's eyes, a stillness, a depth, that suggested hidden currents beneath a calm surface. Chen kept to himself, working his assigned job in the prison laundry without complaint. He never joined any of the racial groups or gangs. He didn't gamble, didn't trade contraband, didn't participate in the complex social hierarchies that govern prison life. He was, in every way, invisible. For 2 weeks, this worked perfectly. Then Marcus noticed him. It started small, as these things always do. Marcus was holding court in the recreation yard, his crew surrounding him as he loudly recounted a story about beating down an inmate who disrespected him. Chen happened to walk past, heading to the library. "Yo, old man." Marcus called out. "You deaf? I'm talking here. Show some respect." Chen paused, turned slightly, and gave a small nod before continuing on his way. The yard went quiet. Marcus's crew exchanged glances. No one walked away from Marcus. Ever. "Did that little Chinese dude just blow off the mountain?" Trigger whispered. Marcus felt his reputation taking a hit. In prison, reputation was everything. He pushed off from the wall, his massive frame casting a shadow over a dozen inmates. "Hold up, old man," Marcus growled, catching up to Chen in 3 long strides. "I don't think you understand how things work here." Chen stopped and turned to face him, his expression neutral. Up close, the size difference was almost comical. Marcus could have bench-pressed 3 of Chen. "I meant no disrespect," Chen said quietly. "I only wish to go to library." "Yeah? Well, you can go after you pay the yard tax. Everyone pays. You want to walk through my yard, that's gonna cost you." Marcus cracked his knuckles, a sound like branches snapping. "Let's start with whatever commissary you got. And I'll take those sneakers. They look new." Chen looked down at his standard-issue prison shoes, then back up at Marcus. "These shoes were issued to me. They are not mine to give." A few inmates who'd been watching from a distance backed away. This was going to get ugly. Marcus grabbed Chen by the collar, lifting him slightly off the ground. "Listen here, you little." Chen's hand moved. Not fast, Not slow. Just moved. He touched a point on Marcus's wrist, and suddenly Marcus's entire arm went numb. His grip released involuntarily, and Chen stepped back smoothly, brushing off his uniform. "Please," Chen said, his voice still calm. "I do not want trouble." Marcus stared at his hand, flexing his fingers as feeling slowly returned. Around them, inmates had formed a circle, sensing something unprecedented about to happen. Did you just put your hands on me?" Marcus's voice was deadly quiet. His face flushed red with fury. "Nobody touches the mountain. Nobody." He lunged forward with a right hook that had knocked out men twice Chen's size. Chen swayed to the side like grass in the wind. The punch missed by inches. Marcus followed with a left, then another right, each blow powerful enough to shatter bone. Chen evaded them all, barely seeming to move, his feet shuffling in small, precise patterns. "Stand still." Marcus roared, now swinging wildly. The circle of inmates watched in stunned silence. The Mountain, the most feared man in Cell Block D, couldn't land a single punch on an old man half his size. Chen finally stopped moving. He stood perfectly still, his hands at his sides, his breathing calm and even. "This is foolish," Chen said. "Please, let us stop this." Marcus saw red. His pride, his reputation, his entire identity was wrapped up in being the most dangerous man in the prison. This little old man was making him look like a fool. "I'm gonna break you in half." Marcus charged forward like a bull, arms outstretched to tackle Chen to the ground. Chen stepped forward to meet him. What happened next would be replayed in prison stories for years to come. Chen's palm struck Marcus's solar plexus with surgical precision, not hard, but perfectly placed. Marcus's charge stopped as if he'd run into an invisible wall. His eyes went wide. He couldn't breathe. Then Chen's other hand touched Marcus's neck, another pressure point, and Marcus's legs buckled. The Mountain crashed to his knees, gasping for air, his massive arms hanging uselessly at his sides. Chen stood over him, his expression more sad than triumphant. "I did not want this," Chen said softly, for Marcus's ears only. "I came here for peace, to serve my time quietly. But you would not allow it." The yard had erupted in chaos. Inmates were shouting, some cheering, others cursing. Guards rushed in, whistles blowing, ordering everyone back to their cells. Marcus, still on his knees, looked up at Chen with a mixture of shock, pain, and something he'd never felt in prison before, fear. That night, Walter couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. "What the hell was that in the yard today?" he demanded as soon as the cells were locked for the night. "The whole prison's talking about it. You dropped Marcus like he was nothing." Chen sat on his bunk, his eyes distant. For a long moment, Walter thought he wouldn't answer. Then the old man began to speak. "I was born in a small village in Fujian province, China," Chen began. "When I was 6 years old, my father took me to the Shaolin temple. Not the tourist temple you see in movies. The real temple, in the mountains, where the ancient traditions are still practiced. I lived there for 12 years, learning kung fu, learning discipline, learning to quiet the mind and strengthen the spirit. My master was an old monk named Shi Yangming. He taught me that true martial arts is not about violence. It is about harmony, about becoming one with the flow of life. Fighting is the last resort, only when all other paths are closed. When I was 18, I left the temple and came to America. I wanted to see the world, to build a life. I met my wife. We had a daughter. I opened a small restaurant in San Francisco. For 30 years, I never used my training. I never needed to. I was happy. Then, 3 years ago, a man came into my daughter's life. He seemed nice at first. She was in love. But he was sick inside, twisted. He hurt her. He beat her. She was afraid to leave him. He threatened to kill her if she did. She called me one night, crying. He had broken her arm. I went to their apartment. I told him to leave, to never come near my daughter again. He laughed. He told me I was an old man, that I should mind my business. He tried to hit me. I I stopped him. I used a technique called Inmate, the touch of death. I did not mean to kill him. I only wanted to stop him from hurting my daughter. But I struck wrong. Too hard. Too precise. His heart. It stopped. The police came. My daughter told them everything, about the abuse, about his threats. The prosecutor offered me a deal. Voluntary manslaughter. 12 years. My lawyer said I could have fought it, claimed self-defense, protection of another. But I was tired. I had taken a life. I had violated everything my master taught me. I accepted the punishment. Walter sat in stunned silence. So you're like, what? A kung fu master? Chen shook his head. I am an old man who made a terrible mistake. The kung fu, it is just something I learned long ago. I had hoped never to use it again. But Marcus. Marcus gave me no choice, Chen interrupted, his voice firm. In the temple, we learned that to walk away from a fight is not weakness. It is strength. But to allow oneself to be victimized, to become someone's prey, this also violates the spirit. There must be balance. What I did today, I did not do for pride or anger. I did it to establish boundary. Marcus will either respect this boundary, or he will not. If he does not. Chen trailed off, leaving the consequence unspoken. Man, Walter breathed. You just changed everything in this prison. You know that, right? Marcus's whole empire, it's built on fear. And you just showed everyone he can be beaten. Chen lay back on his bunk, closing his eyes. I did not want to change anything. I only want peace. But peace, Walter knew, was the one thing Chen Wei would not be getting. Marcus spent 3 days in the infirmary. The doctor couldn't find anything physically wrong with him. No broken bones, no internal injuries. But Marcus insisted his body wasn't working right. His arm had regained feeling, but he felt different, vulnerable. His crew visited him, trying to pump him up, talking about revenge, about making an example of the old Chinese man. But Marcus was quiet, thinking. He'd been in hundreds of fights. He'd beaten men bloody, had been beaten bloody himself. He understood violence in all its forms. But what Chen had done wasn't violence as Marcus knew it. It was something else entirely. It was like Chen had reached inside him and flipped a switch. When Marcus returned to cell block D, the atmosphere had changed. Inmates who used to avert their eyes now watched him openly. His crew still backed him, but there was a hesitation in their support, a crack in the foundation. Marcus found Chen in the library, sitting alone, reading a book about Chinese philosophy. We need to talk, Marcus said, pulling out a chair. For the first time in his prison career, he sat down across from someone without posturing, without threat. Chen looked up, waiting. I'm gonna be straight with you, Marcus began. My whole life, I've been the strongest guy in the room. Since I was a kid. I learned early that if you're strong, people leave you alone. They respect you. They fear you. And fear, man, fear is power. Then you come along, and you're half my size, and you drop me like I'm nothing. You made me look weak. In here, that's death. My reputation's all I got. Chen closed his book. Reputation built on fear is a house on sand. The first strong wind, it falls. Yeah, well, it's kept me alive for 3 years. Marcus leaned back. I came here to tell you I'm coming for you. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what everyone expects. I let you disrespect me. I'm done. Chen nodded slowly. Then come. I will defend myself. But here's the thing, Marcus continued. I've been thinking. Really thinking. For the first time in a long time. I watched you in the yard. You weren't trying to hurt me. You could have broke my neck, probably, but you didn't. You just stopped me. Made your point. Violence should be measured, Chen said. Use only what is necessary. Marcus laughed bitterly. Man, I don't even know what's necessary anymore. You know what my master plan was? Get out in 6 years, go back to Detroit, probably end up dead or back in here within a year. That was it. That was my whole future. It does not have to be, Chen said quietly. The past does not dictate the future. Every moment is a chance to choose a different path. They sat in silence for a moment, two men from completely different worlds, connected by violence but talking about something else entirely. If I walk away from this, Marcus said slowly, from the fight everyone's expecting, I lose everything. You lose an illusion, Chen corrected. Fear is not respect. Power taken by force is borrowed time. But strength earned through discipline, through mastery of self, this no one can take from you. Marcus stood up. I ain't asking to be your friend or nothing. But maybe we don't have to be enemies. Maybe I got some things to learn. Chen stood as well, extending his hand. After a moment's hesitation, Marcus shook it. In my culture, Chen said, we have a saying, a true teacher opens the door, but you must walk through it yourself. I cannot teach you to be different. But if you wish to learn, I can show you what I know. Not the fighting, the discipline, the peace. Over the following weeks, something unprecedented happened in cell block D. Early each morning, in the corner of the rec yard, Chen could be seen moving through his Tai Chi forms. And next to him, moving clumsily but earnestly, was Marcus Williams, the mountain, trying to learn a different kind of strength. His crew thought he'd lost his mind. Other inmates didn't know what to make of it. But Marcus didn't care anymore. For the first time in his life, he was learning something that didn't involve hurting people. His empire crumbled, but Marcus discovered he didn't miss it. The constant tension, the need to always be the toughest, the fear of showing any weakness, it had been exhausting. Now, working in the prison garden, Chen had introduced him to learning to breathe properly, learning to move with intention rather than rage. Marcus felt something he couldn't quite name. It might have been peace. Chen continued his quiet existence, but now with an unlikely student. He taught Marcus the basics, not the deadly techniques, but the foundations: balance, breathing, centeredness. He taught him that true strength wasn't about dominating others, but about mastering yourself. Strength without control is destruction, Chen explained one morning as they moved through the forms. Control without compassion is cruelty. You must find balance. Marcus still had years left on his sentence. So did Chen. But in the strange crucible of Iron Gate Penitentiary, both men found something unexpected, a chance at transformation. The other inmates eventually stopped watching. The story of the day Marcus got dropped became prison legend, told and retold, embellished with each telling. But the real story, the story of what happened after, was quieter, less dramatic, and perhaps more important. It was the story of how even in the darkest places, change is possible. How strength can be redefined. How enemies can become teachers. And how sometimes, getting knocked down is the first step to standing up as a better man. 2 years later, when Chen Wei was granted early release for good behavior, Marcus the Mountain Williams stood at the fence, watching the old man walk toward freedom. Remember what I taught you, Chen called back. The path is long, but each step matters. Marcus nodded, his massive frame somehow seeming less intimidating than before. I will, teacher. I will. As Chen disappeared through the prison gates, Marcus turned back toward the yard. He still had 4 years to serve. But now, he had something else. A purpose. He began teaching other inmates the basics Chen had shared with him, not as a kung fu master, but as someone who'd learned that strength comes in many forms. The mountain had found his balance. And in finding it, he discovered that sometimes the biggest battles we fight are the ones inside ourselves. Thank you for watching Behind Bar Tales. If this story moved you, inspired you, or just kept you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories from inside America's prisons. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought about Marcus's transformation. And remember, it's never too late to change your path. Until next time, stay safe out there.